Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Alan. My life has been hell with my wife. So when she laughed at me and decided to end the marriage because I lost my job, I agreed to everything she wished to take. And she did take the house and car I got for all when everything was fine. But there is something she never knew I had, and I will be telling you all about it, and how her life fell apart when she found out. I met Sandra, the woman who became my wife 8 years ago, through some mutual friends at a small gathering. It was a regular hangout, with a couple of familiar faces. And then there was her. We started talking that night, and I remember thinking, she gets me. It wasn't long after that evening that we started spending more time together. Coffee dates turned into dinners, late-night phone calls became morning texts, and before I knew it, we were talking about a future together. We didn't date for years. It all moved pretty quickly. I wouldn't say we rushed into marriage blindly, but we definitely didn't drag our feet. I thought I had found my missing rib. I know it sounds corny, but I was certain about her then. At the time, I was working as a software engineer. I had landed a good job straight out of college, and by the time Sandra and I got married, I was making really solid money. My salary covered everything we needed, and then some. We took vacations 2 or 3 times a year. Sandra liked shopping, and she didn't have to think twice about price tags back then. I wanted her to enjoy life. There's a certain pride that comes with being able to take care of your family without worrying about every dollar. We looked like a well-matched couple doing well in life on the outside. On the inside, I thought I had everything I needed. But the truth is, people can enjoy the same sunshine and still be looking for different things. I didn't see it yet back then. I didn't realize that the life I thought we were building together was something she saw very differently. 6 years into our marriage, things started to change. The company I had been working for since I left college started to plateau. We weren't growing like before. Profits were down. Management gathered us for a series of meetings and told us the truth. To keep the company alive, they needed to make serious cuts. The first thing to go? Our bonuses. But that wasn't all. They told us that in the event the company got acquired, we'd be allowed to sell our patents independently, the ones we created during our time there. That got my attention. I had one particular software patent that I had developed. I knew its worth. If the company were sold, I could pitch and sell it. And not just for a few thousand, this thing could change my life. That's why I stayed. I had other offers, sure. I could have taken a new job elsewhere. But I believed in this play. And honestly, I felt like I owed the company something. They gave me my start fresh out of college, and I felt loyal. The trouble started at home as soon as I told Sandra what was going on. I had explained that things would be tight for a while. I told her bonuses were gone for now, but that we weren't drowning. We just needed to ease up a bit until things turned around. Her reaction was brutal. She gave me this look like I had personally insulted her. Then came the cold shoulder. That conversation kicked off a new chapter in our marriage, and not a good one. It was like the woman I married slowly vanished. Sandra used to be supportive, or at least she pretended well enough. I began to notice that everything to her was about status. She became obsessed with how things looked and what people thought. Suddenly, she was comparing me to every man she knew. One time she even asked me flat out why she had to live like this, as if we were in poverty or something. We weren't. We still lived in our house. We still had 2 cars. We still ate well. But she wasn't taking 3 vacations a year anymore. She wasn't shopping for new handbags every week. That, to her, was suffering. I kept trying to tell her that things could change any day, that I wasn't just sitting on my hands. But every time I said that, she laughed and said, "Oh please, Prophet Alan. Should I wait until I'm in the grave before things turn around?" She said it with such sarcasm. I tried to explain that switching jobs wasn't as easy as it sounded. I told her that chasing short-term comfort might mean missing out on something bigger. She didn't care. She flat out said, "Then go get another job." I don't want to hear it. And it didn't stop at words. She began staying out late, and at one point, she spent a night outside. I'd ask where she was, and she'd say she crashed at a friend's place. I asked her calmly, "Sandra, you didn't think to come home before it got dark?" She scoffed. "What? Am I supposed to come home to babysit you now?" It became obvious to me. She didn't just lose respect for me. She resented me. And she said another thing. "You're not spending money on me anymore. Don't tell me what to do." After that, I stopped trying because every time I brought something up, she would just sigh dramatically or walk out of the room. I became quiet and withdrawn. It felt like I was living with someone who wanted me to fail, just so she'd have an excuse to leave. And the worst part? I was still holding on, still hoping she'd snap out of it. But I was wrong. Everything in my marriage really started falling apart the day I got the news. The company I worked for had officially been acquired. The writing had been on the wall for a while. When the new owners came in, they wanted a lean team, mostly their own people. I was told politely that I'd be let go, with a severance package. When I got home that evening, I knew I had to tell Sandra. I wasn't expecting comfort because I hadn't gotten much of that from her in a long time. I sat her down and told her directly, "The company's been bought out. I'm being let go. They're offering severance." But before I could even finish, she laughed, looked me in the eye, and said, "I always knew this day would come. You're just not built for success." I don't know how to describe what that moment felt like. It was like she had been waiting, expecting me to fail, or she was finally proven right about something she had been keeping score on in her head. From that moment, it just got worse. She mocked me in front of her friends. She said things like, "He married me just to ruin my life," or "I should have seen this coming. He was never serious." But what she didn't know, and I never told her because of her behavior, was that I had one last card. See, when the company announced the acquisition, as part of the agreement, I had this one patent I developed mostly on my own. My old boss knew about it and told me, "Alan, don't let that patent go for cheap. These new owners will want it badly. They'll pay big for it." He was confident, and that gave me a small, quiet hope. But I told no one, not even my wife. I didn't trust her anymore. She had already shown me that I was only valuable to her when the money was flowing. So I held on to that secret. It had been a month since I lost my job, and in that short time, Sandra's attitude went from bad to outright cruel. So by the time the divorce papers came in, I honestly wasn't surprised. She told me that her reason was that we've grown apart. When I didn't say anything, she added, "I've settled too long. I need someone who's going places." That line stuck with me. Sandra had already checked out of the marriage. I didn't have proof, but I had a strong gut feeling she was seeing someone else. Her sudden overnight stays, and the way she stopped even pretending to respect me, now added up. So I didn't fight it. I got my lawyer involved, then signed the papers. Every single thing she wanted, I agreed to. The house, the car, and alimony. But I did have one condition. Through my lawyer, I requested that the alimony payments be calculated up front, so I could just pay everything in one go from the severance package I received when I was laid off. That way, I wouldn't have her or her lawyer chasing me down in the future if my financial situation changed. And most importantly, we included a clause in the agreement that said she would have no right to sue me for any additional payments in the future, no matter what happened. Sandra was thrilled. You could see it in her face. She really believed she was walking away with everything. She even laughed when her own lawyer hesitated. I still remember her lawyer trying to advise her against signing away her future claims. He told her, "This might not be the best move. You never know what could come up later." But she brushed him off. She was too caught up in the idea of her upgrade. She thought she was trading in a failing husband for a better life, and she didn't want anything slowing her down. And so, just like that, the divorce was finalized. No drawn-out court battles and no bitter fights. I let her walk away with everything she asked for and more, and she made sure the world knew it. Sandra went around gloating to her friends, telling anyone who would listen how she took the house, the car, and got paid in full. To her, it was a clean break. To me, it was the closing of a chapter one was more than ready to end. She thought she had won. She thought she had left me in the dust. But what she didn't know, what she never saw coming, was that the real story hadn't even started yet. After the divorce was finalized, I disappeared from the social scene. While Sandra was out flaunting her freedom and boasting about her new man, I kept my profile even lower. I wasn't hiding, I was waiting. The company I had worked at for years, the one that had just been acquired, was still finalizing all the post-acquisition paperwork. These things take time. About 6 months, to be exact. And by the time everything was sealed, for months had already passed since Sandra walked out of my life. Then came the moment I had been quietly preparing for. When the new owners began reviewing our IPs, they saw the patent in my name and wanted it badly. Instead of offering a licensing agreement, which would have brought in royalties over time, they decided to buy it outright. Just like that. The offer was over $80 million, but if things go well, I will get $67 million. I don't care how composed you think you are. When you see that number in writing, your heart skips a beat. But I didn't let it show. I kept things professional, and I followed every piece of advice my lawyer gave me to the letter. He warned me, don't take this in your personal name. If word gets out, people you've never heard of will suddenly think they're entitled to your success. So we set up a limited liability company, an LLC, owned by a trust based offshore. That way, when the money was transferred, it never hit my personal bank account. Legally and financially, I was protected. Sandra wouldn't see a single cent. That night, after everything was finalized, I sat alone and let it all sink in. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't take luxury trips or post anything flashy online. Instead, I opened my own company quietly, under the trust. I chose not to draw a salary. There was no need to. For me, it wasn't about showing the world what I'd become. It had been a little over a year since the divorce papers were signed and the final signatures dried. Life had moved on, or at least, that's what it looked like on the surface. Sandra, my ex-wife, had moved on quickly with a new guy, flaunting their relationship all over social media. Life was great on her end, at least on the outside. Then came the discovery. Somehow, somewhere, Sandra got wind of my fortune. She found out that I wasn't broke and I hadn't hit rock bottom. That I wasn't the failure she told me I was. But what she didn't know was that the thing she mocked me for staying loyal to, the job she said was beneath me, was the same thing that made me wealthy beyond her wildest imagination. To make matters worse, she and her new man had already burned through most of the money I gave her in the divorce. I found out that when you put someone with expensive taste and poor judgment in charge of money they didn't earn, it disappears fast. So when she finally realized that I got somewhat of a payout, she was furious. She lawyered up and filed a motion to reopen the financials from the divorce. Her claim? That I had committed fraud, that I'd hidden a massive payout during the divorce process, and that she was entitled to her share. Suddenly, the same woman who told me I wasn't built for success was dragging me back to court, trying to claim part of the life I built after she left. But what she didn't realize was that she was already too late. Just like with the marriage, she didn't see the value until it was no longer hers to claim. I got a notice from her attorney. Their claim? He hid a massive payout during the divorce. We demand our share. That was her entire argument. When I first read that, I laughed. She clearly had no clue how airtight that divorce agreement was. And I knew she never bothered to read the fine print. My legal defense was simple. First of all, the patent sale didn't happen while we were married. It happened after the divorce was finalized. Legally, that means it's not considered marital property. Case closed on that point. Second, the patent itself was mine from day one. I built it from scratch, on my own time, using my own skills, and without a cent or second of help from Sandra. She didn't invest in it. She didn't even know about it. Third, the money from the sale wasn't even paid to me personally. It went straight into a limited liability company owned by a trust not in my name. Finally, the cherry on top, we had already signed a clause in the divorce agreement that barred either party from suing for additional money later. Her own lawyer had warned her, but she wanted fast cash and signed off anyway. In court, we brought everything. The exact date the patent was sold, months after the divorce. Proof that the patent was created long before she and I even started having problems. Documentation of how the sale and trust were structured. And, of course, the original divorce settlement, with her signature right there next to that clause that said no future claims. When the judge asked me to respond, I kept it calm. I looked straight ahead and said, "Actually, Your Honor, the sale occurred after we signed." And I disclosed everything I was required to. Now, I could have walked out of there satisfied, just knowing the case was dead on arrival. But I didn't stop there. I decided to hit back. I filed my own lawsuit. Why? Because they broke the agreement. That clause wasn't optional. And dragging me to court over something we both agreed was off limits meant breach of contract. So I sued for damages, specifically to cover all the legal fees I had to spend just to deal with their baseless claim. And guess what? The court agreed with me. The judge ruled that Sandra and her lawyer violated the terms of the original settlement, and they were ordered to pay my legal fees. Now, was it a huge sum of money? No, not even close to what I spent during the whole process. But it wasn't about the money. It sent a message loud and clear. You don't get to walk all over people and then cry foul when your gamble doesn't pay off. After everything was finally over, I sat down and wrote a letter. I wrote it because I needed to say something I never got the chance to say during the chaos. And I kept it simple. The letter read, "Thank you for leaving when you did. I couldn't have done this with you around." I knew if she had stayed, I never would have had the clarity or peace of mind to go through with the patent deal. Her negativity, her constant nagging, the pressure to prove myself to someone who never really believed in me would have eaten me alive. So her leaving wasn't just a blessing in disguise. A few days after she got the letter, she called. I let it ring out the first few times, but she kept calling. Eventually, I picked up. She was crying. Finally, she said she's sorry and she messed everything up. Asked if we can meet and just talk. That was the first time in years she sounded like the woman I married. But it didn't change anything. The damage was done long ago. So I told her no. I just said, "I'm not meeting up with you, Sandra. I wish you well truly, but some things, once broken, can't be rebuilt." Now, when people ask me if I know how she's doing, I tell them the truth. I don't know, and I don't care. I really don't. When you finally find peace, the last thing you want to do is go digging into old messes that nearly broke you. Looking back, I realized that the betrayal wasn't just about the divorce. Sometimes the best revenge is not needing revenge at all. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the situation down below. I'd really love to hear what you think. She was drunk, as she confessed. "I was never attracted to you, and I can't stop seeing other men." Her words hit me like a slap. While she passed out, I made my decision. By sunrise, I vanished. No notes, no goodbyes. My name's Phil, and I've always been the kind of guy who believed that hard work could fix almost anything. It's just how I was raised. You put your head down, you grind, and everything else falls into place. That mindset shaped my life, especially when it came to my marriage. For as long as I can remember, my days were a blur of meetings, deadlines, and deals. I worked hard. I'd wake up and hustle all day. And by the time I got home, I was too drained to do much more than say goodnight to my wife. But I told myself it was all worth it. I was building a life for us, making sure she'd never have to worry about anything. When I wasn't working, she was all I thought about. How to make her happy, how to give her the life she deserved. I'd bring her gifts when I traveled for work. I'd plan weekend getaways to make up for lost time. It was never perfect, but I figured she understood. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up and trying. At least that's what I thought. Looking back, I realize I might have gotten it wrong. But at the time, I didn't see that. I thought working harder meant loving harder. Lately, though, things had felt off. She barely acknowledged me anymore. At first, I brushed it aside. We'd only been married for 2 years. I figured we were just settling into the routine of married life. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't want to believe it. I told myself she was just stressed, tired, or going through a phase. I thought if I worked a little harder and showed her how much I cared, everything would go back to how it was. I was convinced that love and effort could fix anything. Turns out I was wrong. Very wrong. When I realized things were tense between us, I decided to do something about it. I thought maybe a romantic dinner could help us reconnect. I don't know, maybe I was being naive, but I believed in trying. I spent the entire afternoon preparing. I cooked her favorite meal, chicken parmesan with garlic mashed potatoes, something I hadn't made since our first date. I set the table with candles, dimmed the lights just right, and picked a playlist of soft, slow songs she used to love. It was my way of saying, I see you, I miss you, and I'm trying. When she walked through the door, she looked surprised. "Wow," she said, glancing around, her eyes landing on the table. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of something, gratitude maybe? She kissed my cheek, sat down, and smiled. We started eating, and the conversation flowed, light and easy. She complimented the food, joked about how I was secretly a better cook than her, and for the first time in months, she laughed genuinely. And in that moment, I thought maybe we could find our way back. But after her third glass of wine, things went downhill fast. She was drunk. It was subtle at first. She leaned back in her chair, her expression loosening, her words coming slower, freer. I didn't think much of it until she set her glass down, looked at me, and said, "You're a nice guy. You make sure I'm okay. That's why I'm here with you." I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice steady, even though my stomach was twisting. She laughed soft, but with a hint of pity. "I mean, I've never really been attracted to you. Not in that way." Her words hit me like a freight train, but she didn't stop there. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand like she was telling me a casual story. "You're sweet, gentle, safe, but you're not my type." Then she started describing her type, someone rougher, with a darker vibe. Someone who isn't afraid to break the rules. The complete opposite of me. And then, as if it wasn't bad enough, she dropped the bomb. When I met him, my type, I just couldn't resist. One thing led to another, and she trailed off, but I didn't need her to finish. I knew what she was saying. I sat there, nodding like a fool, as my wife poured out truths that shattered me. My chest felt heavy like I couldn't breathe, but I kept my face calm. On the outside, I was composed, but inside, something in me snapped. This wasn't an apology. It wasn't even regret. It was a drunken justification, as if she wanted me to understand her reasons for betraying me. And at that moment, I realized I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to fight. I just needed to let her finish and then decide what to do next. When I went to bed that night, I knew there was no going back. Her words kept replaying in my head. How I wasn't her type, how she stayed with me because I was a nice guy, how she found what she wanted elsewhere. It wasn't just the betrayal that stung. It was the casual way she admitted it. Lying there in the dark, listening to her soft snores, I felt no anger, only clarity. Fighting with her wouldn't change anything. She'd already shown me who she was, and I believed her. Confronting her would only give her the satisfaction of justifying herself. She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve a fight. She didn't deserve closure. She deserved to see what life without me really meant. By the time the sun came up, I had made my decision. I wouldn't be there when she woke up. I'm not a man who does things impulsively. When I act with precision. That morning, I left the house like I always did, quietly, deliberately, with no sign that anything was out of the ordinary. Except this time, I wasn't coming back. The first call I made was to my lawyer. I told him to prepare the divorce papers and include everything I needed to separate my life from hers. Next, I called my accountant. He was a sharp man, and within hours, he started liquidating my shares in our jointly owned investments. By the end of the day, my accounts were empty, and I had full control over my assets. Then I called my family. I didn't give them all the details. I didn't need to, but I made one thing clear. Don't entertain her. Don't share my whereabouts. If she calls, you tell her nothing. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done without having anyone to cushion the fall. Finally, I left a message with my lawyer to deliver to her when she inevitably tried to reach me. She'll get the divorce papers soon. No explanations. No apologies. Just the cold, hard reality of what she'd lost. A few weeks later, the papers were served. I heard from my lawyer that she tried to reach out, calls, emails, even showing up at his office. I didn't respond. She begged for an explanation. But what could I possibly say that she didn't already know? At first, she didn't want to sign the papers. She was hesitant, dragging her feet. Maybe she thought she could somehow salvage what we had, or maybe she just didn't want to lose the stability I provided. But when she saw the financial settlement, she caved. I wasn't surprised when she signed. After all, she always prioritized herself. And just like that, the chapter was closed. You know, when I walked out of that marriage, I wasn't thinking about what would happen to her. I just wanted to be free from her lies, her disrespect, and her complete lack of care for me as a person. I thought, let her have the life she wants. And for a while it seemed like she did. At first, she seemed to enjoy her new life. She was free, single, and financially secure, thanks to the settlement. I'd worked hard to build something for us, and she got her share when we divorced. She started going out more, throwing herself into her usual distractions, nights out, new clothes, and, of course, new men. I heard she even joked about how she finally got to live the life she deserved. But here's the thing about people like her. They never think past the moment. She thought freedom meant doing whatever she wanted without consequences. Life doesn't work like that. Eventually, it catches up with you. One of those freedoms caught up with her in a big way. She ended up pregnant. I found out through a mutual acquaintance who still couldn't resist passing along the gossip. Apparently, it wasn't a planned thing. Not that I'd expect it to be. The father? He vanished the moment she told him. No calls, no texts, nothing. Just gone. She was left to deal with it alone. And it didn't stop there. The settlement money? She burned through it like it was nothing. By the time the baby came, she was in serious debt. She had to sell our old house. Well, her house, at that point. It was the last thing left of the life we shared. Then there were her friends, or what was left of them. You see, people like her always attract the same kind of people. Shallow, selfish, and only around when things are fun. When she started asking for help, money, babysitting, a shoulder to cry on, they disappeared one by one. I guess even her best stories couldn't keep them entertained anymore. She got what she thought she wanted, freedom. But that kind of freedom comes with a price. She lost everything that mattered because she never valued it in the first place. The truth? I didn't feel sorry for her. I wasn't sitting somewhere rubbing my hands together, celebrating her downfall either. I just didn't care. She was a chapter I'd closed. Some people think they're escaping something when they're really running straight into a wall. That was her. She ran, and when she hit that wall, there was no one left to catch her. Years had passed. My life had moved on, not in some flashy, dramatic way, but quietly, steadily. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then, one day, she found me. I was at home, sitting by the window with a book in hand, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, there she was. She looked the same, not looking bad, put together, carrying herself with that air of confidence I once admired. Her eyes met mine, steady and searching, as if trying to gauge my reaction. Seeing her again stirred nothing in me but a cold, quiet detachment. I didn't know how she tracked me down. All I felt was disgust. She stood there for a moment, staring at me as if waiting for permission to speak. I didn't give it. Finally, she started talking without waiting for any more approval. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I've been trying to find you for years," she began, her voice low and shaking. "I needed to tell you how sorry I am. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, and I've paid for it every single day since." She paused, waiting for me to say something, but I didn't. I just leaned back on the front door, watching her squirm. "I thought I could have everything," she continued, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. "I thought I could find excitement somewhere else and still keep you. But I was wrong. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." Her words spilled out, desperate and messy. She told me about how her life had fallen apart, The failed relationships, the debt, the loneliness. She even admitted that she was left pregnant and alone. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and said, "Please, I need you. I've never stopped needing you." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. I wanted to make sure she understood that this wasn't a conversation. It was the end of one. "You made your choice," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You were never attracted to me, remember? I wasn't your type. So, go find your type and see if he wants you now." She flinched as if my words had physically struck her. But I didn't stop there. "I don't care what you regret. I don't care how much you've suffered. That's your burden to carry, not mine. Don't ever show your face to me again." I stepped back, closed the door, and walked away without a second thought. I didn't need her explanations, her apologies, or her regret. That part of my life was over, and there was no reason to reopen it. As I walked away, I thought about the man I had become. Losing her had been painful. It had torn me apart in ways I didn't know I could break. But it also forced me to rebuild. And I am still rebuilding. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone who betrays you is your absence. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away and never look back. In losing her, I found myself, and that I realized was the only closure I would ever need. So let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Honestly, think about it for a second. You've just sat through a dinner you planned to bring back some spark into your marriage, only to have your wife, the woman you vowed to spend your life with, tell you, between sips of wine no less, that you're not her type. She even had the nerve to laugh and explain how she's been with other men behind your back. What would you do? Would you stay and fight for someone who doesn't value you? Or would you walk away? Look, I'm not here to tell anyone what's right or wrong, but let me share something I've learned the hard way. If you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, where someone shows you they don't respect you or your love, you've got to stop making excuses for them. Don't let their lack of appreciation chip away at your self-worth. The truth is, people treat you how you let them treat you. If they can step all over you once, they'll do it again, and it only gets worse over time. Leaving isn't easy, I get that. It's painful. It's messy. And yeah, it's lonely at first. But you've got to think about the long term. Maybe you're scared of what happens after. Scared of starting over. Of being alone. But let me tell you something. Being alone is a hell of a lot better than being with someone who makes you feel like you're not enough. And when you finally walk away from someone who doesn't see that, you open the door for something better, even if that better thing is just finding peace within yourself. Thank you for watching.